All right, what up, Footy gang? This is your host, Rhett. Welcome to the Footy Podcast. Hope you're all doing well today. We've got another solo dolo episode for this week, and it could be a little bit shorter one than normal because we, of course, have tons and tons of news to talk about, but it might be just a little bit of short because there's not nearly as much, and I don't want to go too crazy into transfers and things like that. But I'll tell you what, everything is starting to really heat up post World Cup, and we're getting closer and closer, edging closer and closer to the start of the season for all teams basically. So, but with that, I have a couple topics that I really wanted to talk about today. And one is I don't even know if we actually have spoken about this topic so far. I don't think we have because I've had a couple guests on. We just really haven't gone into it. But the big one is like Infantino, the Gianni Infantino, FIFA, UEFA, possible mutiny going on situation, right? So for all of you that have not been following along to this craziness right now, basically what happened was post World Cup, Infantino, who is most likely on a high from how much money the World Cup probably made. He's probably thinking about his pockets and you know everything that he's done and me, and I'm such a great person and whatever. And so what he did is behind everyone's backs, he basically created a proposal, right? So he created a proposal, and I'm sure some people knew, but you know, none of the UEFA, CONCACAF. For those who don't know, CONCACAF, that's like the U.S. and that kind of the USA and some of the other islands and things like that in CONCACAF. And also like the APAC region, the Asian regions, like none of these places knew. So, and the whole point of FIFA is, the whole point is like they're supposed to, you're the governing body. You're supposed to consult other places whenever you're thinking about ideas and things like that. But they didn't, and Infantino behind their back created this proposal, right? So the proposal was a 20% to sell 20% a private equity stake in the World Cup commercial rights for $20 billion. So most people that probably hear this are going, okay, well, they're just trying to, you're thinking about your normal news of seeing maybe Fortune 500 company or anything like that, and they're like, oh, so selling equity. It's just quite normal, is it not? They're just trying to make some money. They're trying to have some people dip their toes in. Okay, but that sounds all good unless you're FIFA, who is supposed to be a very unbiased, everything for the game type of organization, right? So you don't want I don't know what other kind of example I could give here, but imagine if the NBA basically was like the NBA as a whole, like the governing body of the NBA, Adam Silver was like, yeah, I'm going to sell 20% of the NBA to a Saudi PIF, private equity fund or something like that. That people would be like, whoa, we don't need that. Like, do we need it? No. It's like, well, then why are we doing it? Because it adds in more people trying to get in the pot, and people will want to make decisions. They'll want to have power over how many teams we let in the World Cup. And instead of thinking about, those people care about their ROI, their return on investment. So instead of thinking about how do we think about the players, how do we think about the teams, how do we make a good World Cup for people to view, they're going to be thinking about how do we make more money. And Infantino this is nothing short of something that he would do. It makes his track record kind of checks out. I'm not going to go into that. I don't know actually, I'm not going to sit here and be like an expert on his track record. I just know that he's a very sleazy person, and he's done a lot of bad work. I have not watched his videos or documentaries on the FIFA scandals before, but I know it's pretty bad from the people that I've spoken to. So, so what happened is he proposed this. Basically sent like, I don't know if he sent like a letter out basically to all the places, but basically said like, hey, we're gonna do this, and immediately like UEFA, CONCACAF, Asia's AFC as well, and all 55 European member nations boycotted it basically. And not only did they boycott, they basically said no to the proposal, and they boycotted FIFA, and they said basically we will not be in any of the FIFA competitions going forward. If this goes through, basically, which is an incredibly strong stance. I mean, you have got to feel so proud of these places, these bodies, whenever they put out things like this, because they actually do care. They care about the everyday person like us, and not just about true capitalism and just making money. There's like, in the game of football, like you I get it, there's a lot of money being thrown around. Like, you want to make money, and like from a club standpoint, like, yeah, of course you want to make money, but these are not club standpoints right now. These are national teams. Like, the money is not about it. You play in the World Cup, like those players play in the World Cup because they want to represent their countries, not because they want to make money. The money has nothing to do with it. That's what they play club soccer for. That's what their livelihood, their day-to-day operations. They only play with their national team for 2 weeks at a time if they're selected. By the way, if they're selected 2 weeks at a time every couple months, and then you gear up for a tournament. So, yeah, this was a crazy one. This is honestly at this point a little bit of old news, to be honest. This probably happened, I don't know, 2 weeks ago at this point. But I definitely wanted to talk about it a little bit and kind of my stance on it, because I just don't. I do hope that Infantino does have to leave. I think this is one of those moves where it's like, you bury your hatchet a little bit. Like, it's over. I think it should be. Like, there's no way that anyone's gonna have trust in him. If I'm someone on UEFA, especially the fact that this proposal was created and just presented and said, hey, hop on, it's just insane. I think even Arsene Wenger came out, and he's head of football operations, so he doesn't deal with this on a day-to-day basis. He deals with like the direct influence on like academies and the game overall, not about like sponsorships and things like that. So he's very specific role within FIFA. But he came out and basically was like, yeah, this is insane. This is crazy. This should be knocked down immediately. So I think people were thinking that he has some type of play on this, or he's in the mix. Everyone thinks, oh, you're just affiliated with FIFA, you're in the mix of this in these conversations, and it's just not true. It's just like, does the academy coach for a Premier League team? Does the academy coach know what's going on match day for the first team? Like, no, they're separate. They do different things. They're on different timelines. They're doing everything differently. So this was a crazy one, honestly. I'm really happy. I'm really happy for. It's just kind of like the Super League, when the Super League happened a couple years back, when they wanted to join that Super League, and everyone kind of like said, absolutely not, we don't want to do that, and that was the right thing to do. It was the right thing to do, and this is the right thing to do as well. If the game of football ever comes to a standstill, or to a spot where you need to sell private equity stake to keep the game going, or to do whatever, then we've landed in a really bad spot, to be honest, because that should never be somewhere where we're at, and it just shouldn't happen. The game is growing rapidly. There's more and more people playing soccer every single year, or football every single year, so Why are we worried about making more money? It's not. It's not the point of this. It's not the point. That's not the reason why FIFA was created. If we go back in the roots, let's check on why FIFA was created. I'm sure it was not to make money. So let's. I'm not saying you be a dinosaur and stay like this forever. I'm just saying let's understand our roots and where we came from and what we actually care about, and maybe go back to I like just how any company kind of has like their kind of like message of why they do things, right? I'm blanking on the actual word of this message of what they usually call it, but it's kind of like their little rah rah chant of like why we do things. Like maybe FIFA might need to take a second to take a step back and think, what is our mojo? What's our motto, basically? And also, is the guy running it? Does he represent it? And that's important. Sometimes you gotta take a step back and do that. So yeah, that was a really really big one. And going next is a little bit more is on everyone's favorite manager. I mean, come on. Jose Mourinho has his own documentary on Netflix, and it is out today. I've already been texted by legend of the show, AG, and he put it perfectly. He said to clear your schedule. The Mourinho documentary comes out today. And I think it is just going to be fantastic. I also just looked it up. I haven't watched it yet, but I just looked it up, and it was the same producers of that show as the Beckham show, the docuseries they did for David Beckham, which was fantastic. That was really, really well done. I thought they left some good cliffhangers in that show around Bex and Posh about their lives and kind of the craziness around it. And I'm sure they had some very, very tough times. So I'm really interested to see how this Mourinho documentary goes. Anytime Mourinho is around cameras, he is absolutely hilarious. And he just speaks his mind, and he's a special one, and self coined, and yeah, he's a good personality. It's hard to find really really good personalities. A lot of managers are very bleh nowadays. I couldn't even find a good word for that. It's probably just bleh. It's just it. And I could go on a rant about this too. I think managers, we sometimes dog on them, or maybe I'm thinking about a little bit more about Mikel, my manager specifically, but we dog on a lot of these managers for having a lot of passion and having a lot of energy. Jose has always been like this, right? He's always had this crazy energy to him, and I think because the fact that he's won some big titles and done it at some very impressive teams like Porto and Inter Milan. Porto was probably the most impressive one. Inter Milan, he had an absolutely incredible squad there, but when you look back, like, these guys have passion. They have passion for the game, and they really, really care about it. And there's going to be a day when Jose Mourinho is no longer coaching anymore, and it could happen soon. It'll probably happen within the next less than 10 years. So in the next decade, Jose Mourinho will probably stop coaching, and we'll sadly miss someone who has given so much to the game and so much passion. And I'm not going to sit here and say that Mourinho has influenced a lot of coaches, but he's been a positive for the game. Someone that just like cares about winning. All he does is care about winning, and he's not afraid to talk publicly and talk about things. He always is pretty aggressive with even his press conferences and talking about what's going on. Like, if you have a bad game and someone happens to ask him about it, like, he will publicly say, like, you probably had a bad game, or maybe not the best game. And some managers don't do that. He is totally fine with talking about that. And that's what you just get with him. You get he's transparent. He's almost translucent. You can see straight through him. So, yeah, he's fantastic. I'm definitely gonna have to give you guys maybe an update. Hopefully, I'll get through like a couple. I don't know how many episodes there are, but hopefully, I can get through it by the next show next week. And we can kind of talk about it a little bit more about what's going on and things like that. And Jose's at Real Madrid right now, which Real Madrid is just having a crazy, crazy summer. They've made some insane signings. Honestly, they just got their player Jan Diomande, and for those who don't know, Diomande, he plays for the Ivory Coast. He played for RB Leipzig, I believe. I believe it was Leipzig, not Salzburg. But this is a crazy story because this guy Diomande, I think it's 2 years or 2 to 3 years ago, was playing like high school soccer in Florida. So in Florida, like 3 years ago. I mean, the rise, the rise he's had through the ranks is just been. I mean, I don't think we've ever seen something like this. It really has not happened like this before, especially being now at a club like Real Madrid. The only. Yeah, it's hard to look at this. I mean, Gabriel Martinelli for Arsenal was playing in I don't know what division he was in. He was in a very low division playing in Brazil and got picked up and went over to Arsenal and then sort of playing on Arsenal 2 years, probably a year after that in the first team. But this is different, man. This is going from 2 years ago playing high school soccer to now being purchased for a ridiculous fee. I think it was $100 million and getting a move to Real Madrid, the 15-time Champions League winners. These guys only buy players that are superstars, and are well known for it. So, I mean, this is just insane business. I can't wait to watch him this season with Mourinho. I'm sure Mourinho, Mourinho he plays. I wouldn't say he's the best with young talent because he usually has older teams that do well. He's had some. I don't know, honestly. I'd have to look back and see what youth he's kind of pushed through over the last couple of years. He probably did some, especially whenever he's at Roma, I'm sure, because they had a little bit different scenario over there. But or maybe even Benfica too. I mean, he only played at Benfica. He's only at Benfica for a season. So, by the way, went undefeated at Benfica last year and still finished third. I didn't even know that was possible, but I think that's what the special one can do. I think he went invincible and did not win anything and did not even win the league, but never lost. So I don't know if that'll ever happen again. So that's pretty special, I guess. And so they get Diomande and they also get Vinny Jr., right? So last week on the pod, we were talking about Vinny Jr. possibly going to Arsenal. There was a little bit of skepticism with that. I think especially for me, I figured it seemed like this was a perfect. Hey, I'm gonna please give me a good contract, Real Madrid, so I can stay. And that's what ended up happening. He if Real Madrid had a different view, I think he would be at Arsenal right now. But since they obviously wanted Vinny Jr., I mean, I don't know how you're replacing Vinny Jr. But yeah, so he's still there. He signed a new contract over there. He also just got jaw surgery. He looks like a very, very different person because of that, which I don't think we've ever seen a soccer player get we've seen hair transplants. We see tons of hair transplants. Every summer we see a ton of them, but I don't think we've ever seen something like this before, true jaw surgery. And man, I think it just kind of goes to show he must have been really in his own head about that, man, because you don't go get surgery like that unless you're I don't know, very insecure about it, which is sad. It's sad to think that he thought that his jawline wasn't good, or whatever the situation was. This is my assumption, right? No one goes gets work done unless they're actually kind of self-conscious about something. So definitely sad that he felt like that, because I'm like, usually you don't see that from a lot of men. They're usually just like, get on with it, whatever, my face is my face. So you don't really see a lot of that. But maybe we're in that new age, man, where everyone wants to go and get work done. They've seen all the women getting work done, and now the men want to get work done. So yeah, we live in some different times right now. But yeah, that's a little bit interesting, so to say the least. But yeah, so it'll be interesting. It'll be cool to see Diomande at Real Madrid, Jose there this year. We can flip the script a little bit. We can talk a little bit more about the Prem now and kind of what's going on over there. So, and there's not like a ton of news, too much news going on that I'm really going to comment on, because it's not nothing crazy, but we're seeing some outgoings, like Rodri has obviously left Man City, so he's leaving Man City. He's going to Barcelona, which is a good signing for Barcelona. Really good signing for them. But Man City obviously have to plug the hole. They've got a new manager, Enzo Maresca, so they're gonna have to plug that hole. And they're looking at Enzo Fernandez right now from Chelsea. So, you know, Chelsea paid a lot of money for Enzo Fernandez, and it seems like they're gonna get it probably back, which is crazy. Good for them. I mean, Chelsea are some of the best when it comes to selling their players, so they really know how to get a lot of money for their players. So I'm sure they're going to get over 100 million for him, which will cut their losses on him, since he's been there for it's probably been at least 3 to 4 years that he's been there now. But I think he wanted to go to Spain though, which is a little unfortunate. So it's kind of interesting. I'm surprised that Real Madrid wanted Rodri, but aren't going for Enzo Fernandez. I'm surprised that Real Madrid are not, since they're not getting Rodri, aren't going to go for Enzo now. And maybe they will, right? Maybe they will go in the running for him and actually take a shot there. And Rodri was just like the number one, and maybe they'll go for Enzo now. So yeah, that'll be an interesting one. And on other news, one of the big ones that was coming out today was that Miles Lewis-Skelly for Arsenal was like being linked with Manchester United and Chelsea. So I don't know if that's true or not. I've been reading more about it. It's a lot of it's on my timeline, obviously. So I don't know if that's true or not. I know Ben Jacobs, who is actually a very reputable reporter, did talk about it, but I'm not quite sure if it's on the mark. I mean, we'll see in the next coming days, right? Like, if they're saying that Bruno Guimaraes coming in Arsenal is going to be the big reason why he needs to leave, because from an accounting standpoint, he is not a homegrown player, sorry, an academy player. So on the books, he is looked at as costing $0, even though he's obviously, it's an accounting loophole. They've obviously paid money for him to stay at the club for the last like 10 years. He's always been at Arsenal, but you get how it works on the books. It just shows like, hey, we never paid $1 for him to buy him. So that's kind of how it goes. So yeah, he would be a high profile exit. He would be huge. I don't want to say it would be huge losing Miles Lewis-Skelly. It wouldn't. I think it would be. I'll be honest. I was talking to my buddies, Granite from last week, and Patrick, and we talked about this a little bit. And Miles Lewis-Skelly, it's like, I think if you sell him and you get some good money for him, it's fine. He's not like a critical core part of our midfield or even defense. Like, he's not like he's not a Urian Timber, he's not a Saliba, Gabriel, where you're like, you can't not have that guy in the lineup. It's such a drop down. So yeah, I would be, if we had to sell him, I think it would just be like, it's always sad watching academy players go, because you've been watching them for so many years now at this point, especially when they were like bursting onto the scenes a little bit in the academy, and people start putting highlight reels out on Twitter, and you're watching him, you're like, whoa, look at this kid, he's like 17. And then next week you see he's in a first team practice, and then next week you see him on the bench, and then next week he's like, or next month he gets a couple minutes in the back end of a game, and then he starts playing a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. So you really do get to watch their growth, which is really, really fantastic. You feel so attached to them, but at the same time, and you can't keep every player forever, so it's kind of how it works. But you do hope that you kind of can keep a lot of your homegrown talent, because you never know if they're going to turn out to be players like, Saka, who is an absolutely insane player now. He's an absolute elite, world-class player. So, yeah. And, I think that's all for today, honestly, guys. I wanted to keep this a little bit shorter than our more of our long form ones that we've had before, and we've had guests on. There's not too much craziness going on, but boy, it's about to ramp up here soon. I know that the Prem starts on I think it's on the 21st is the Prem starts on that Friday. So it's coming up, man. It is coming up. The season's right around the corner. So hopefully everyone's had a good enough break. I feel like I've taken a really good break over the summer. I've watched some World Cup games, but now since the World Cup's over, I've really decompressed a little bit, and I feel like it's just been enough time to be starting to get really, really excited about the new season, and how there's about to be constant games on all the time, which is amazing. So anyway, for everyone listening out there, just remember that this is on YouTube and also on all streaming platforms. So if you want to watch this podcast, you can also watch it on YouTube, and it should be in the YouTube. Sorry, not in the YouTube description. It should be in the podcast description as well. So it should be in there. Hopefully it is. And but yeah, we're always putting this out on video. So if you're working while you're listening to this and you want to watch it as well, you very much can watch my face while I talk. So we've got that going on there as well. And yeah, trying to be pushing these out every Tuesday. You guys already know the rules, unless something crazy happens with the schedule and my guest can't make it for a Tuesday, then I move it to hopefully like a Wednesday or do it on a Monday or something like that. But the whole point is to always record when I can on Tuesdays, so we can keep this consistent and going. Thank you all for listening. You know that if you've made it this far, that I love you, and I really, really appreciate you listening to this. So thank you so much. And just like that, we are out, Footy Gang. Talk to you guys later. Hope you have a great one. Peace, love.